Hello and welcome to the next Maker Libre build video. Today we're going to be assembling the hot end and the effector, and we're going to be attaching it to the carriage with the carbon fiber rods with the Traxxas rod ends that we assembled in a previous video. Now, in this video, the carriages are sitting out here on the open, even though in past videos we've actually attached these to the carriages. Now, that's okay. The reason why I'm showing them out here rather than on the printer is because it'll be easier for you to see everything. But in actuality, you probably want to assemble these on the printer. You'll just slide the belts off of here so that this is sitting loose. And the big thing that you want to keep in mind is that the belt is traveling through this little gap. And so when you assemble when you attach the carbon fiber rods with the Traxxas ends, I'm going to call them the effector arms, or delta rods, you're actually going to be putting the screw in and the nylock nut so that there's a space, so that this little recess where the nut is actually where the nut is stored. So you're going to be using M3 20mm and 25mm socket head cap screws. You're going to have 6 of each to assemble the effector arms, and in the early kits that shipped we didn't have any of these, but you're going to need at least 3 25mm socket head cap screws. Now if you didn't have any, I apologize. These are about 6 to 12 cents a piece. They're easy enough to get. They don't have to be M3 25mm. These don't have to be M3s. If you're in the US and you want to use something else, that's fine. The only purpose of these screws is to take this J-head mounting bracket and the effector. You're going to feed the screws through these holes, through here, and then put a nut here, and the nylock nut. And that's what's going to hold the hot end onto the effector. And that's the only purpose. So for 30 cents, if we missed it, I apologize. For later kits, we've actually fixed this, and it's not going to be an issue. So let's start with the hot end, first. All right. So as you can see, I've actually used a little bit of heat, some sandpaper, because this was a tight fit, and I just did a little bit of work to make sure that all of this was going to be smooth enough for me to pop the hot end in. Okay, this hot end is assembled, and you just want it to go in snug. Now, a lot of people want it to come all the way down so that the top of the hot end completely is this ridge is flush against there. It's not absolutely necessary. And what you really are looking for, because this groove itself is going to absorb some of that, what you really are looking for is when you snap the hot end in like this, and you put this in, you actually want there to be no gap there. So you can stop sanding or using heat, or if you're using ABS, you can use a Q-tip and some nail polish remover, acetone-based nail polish remover, to get this loosened up so that your hot end fits. Snap this mount on, and then you can just force some screws through. So we will take these 3 screws here. I'm doing this before I actually attach it to the printer, just because, 1, it's easier for you to see on camera, and 2, it's a little bit easier to manipulate these things when you don't have all these effector arms in your way. So you just grab your Allen wrench, force it through the hole, and it just needs to go through. Now, if this is actually sitting on your printer, it's going to be a pain to get to. So that's why I want to assemble these before I put it onto the printer. You want to have at least 3. I started out with 3. I added 2 more later just because I'm a little pedantic sometimes. But you get the screw through here. You can use shorter screws if you need to. You could get away with 20s if you wanted to. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I have to have ABS for my effector, and I have to have ABS for my mount, or I don't want to use plastic, I want to use I want to use metal. And that's fine, but that's a preference. You don't absolutely have to have ABS. And the reason why is this PEEK, or PEEK plastic, it melts at about 270 degrees. And these hot ends, you shouldn't be running them any more than about 248, I think is the spec, 250 degrees. Okay? Now, this is also a plastic. PEEK is a plastic. So if you're running your hot end at 250 degrees, this is an insulator all the way down. And so if that heat is able to transfer all the way up, considering all of the breathing space that you've got, and get your plastic hot enough to either melt or at least to start to bend, you're going to melt your hot end. Okay? There is a lot of airflow around these things. There's a lot to block the heat from getting all the way up to your effector. And so if you are worried that you have to have ABS for your effector, but most people don't. Now if you're running an all metal hot end like the E3D, maybe you want to revisit that. But as you know, I've recommended using against all metal hot ends for PLA. And the main reason for that is PLA is so temperamental that if you're running all metal, that PLA will get soft way before it needs to in your build chamber or in your heat chamber, and so you'll get inconsistent prints. Okay. Now, we'll put the third screw in. Now I've actually taken a 3mm drill bit and I've drilled these holes out a little bit so that they shouldn't grab so much. But what you want to do is you want to put nylock nuts on here now, all three, all the way around. Tighten those up. And then the last thing that you're going to do for your effector before we attach it to the rods is you're going to take this push fit. You have two of these. One goes on your air tripper extruder and the other goes on the effector. Now these have been pre-tapped with M5 taps, and this is an M5 end. So you should be able to just screw this in by your fingers. Okay. Now this is where it's tricky. Just turn this about an eighth of a turn, just to make it a little bit snug so it doesn't come loose. This is plastic, and so you could very easily strip out this plastic by tightening too tight. But the fact is that this is just a push fit, so anything that's pressure strong enough to push this out after those hand turns is going to push that tube out of this push fit. So don't freak out about it. Another thing that you can do is put a little dab of epoxy onto the threads as you're screwing it in, and that should make it fit really nicely. But the point here is that you just barely want to. You just want to have this in. This needs to be taut. It doesn't need to be cranked down like a motor engine or something like that. In the second part of the video, we're actually going to show you how to attach the carriage arms, carbon fiber rods that we assembled, to the carriage end and the effector. Thank you.